Today we are going to be talking about the Master in Management. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. If you are hesitating about the MBA and the Master in Management, today we are focusing just on the Master in Management. If you're interested in MBA, we actually did a webinar last week on a very similar topic, but for MBA students. So the recording is available on our YouTube channel, so you can go check that out. And if you're hesitating between the two, earlier on or end of last year, actually, we did a webinar on what the difference is between the two programs. So you can also check that out. But in a nutshell, if you've got 0 to 3 years of working experience, that's the average. Sometimes 4 if you're in the gray zone, depending on the work experience, then the Master in Management is the best fit for you. For the MBA, you need at least 3 years of working experience, but the average is much higher. So if you're in that gray zone, you can always reach out to us. We can have a chat with you and explain and discuss and see what's the best fit for you. So let me introduce myself. My name is Hermina, and I am in charge of the enrollment and career services at Maastricht School of Management. Actually, I also studied at MSM. I did my MBA there. So I do know the pain and suffering that the students go through, but I also know how useful it is in the long run. Today, also joining us in the chat, as I've mentioned, is Wessel. Wessel, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure thing. Hello, everyone. Good to have you here. My name is Wessel. I'm one of the recruiters, mainly focusing on the Master Management program. So throughout your application process, chances are high that you will run into me or have a conversation with myself, and I will be guiding you through the program structure and your application process.
Thank you, Wessel. More importantly than Wessel and me, though, is our special guest today. We have 2 alumni, Zoe and Angela. And I'm going to actually ask you ladies to introduce yourselves, where you came from, and where you are now. What are you doing? Your background a bit. And so let's start with Zoe.
Awesome. I'm Zoe, and for non-Latin speaker, you can also call me Sogar if it's not too hard to pronounce. I'm from Iran. I had a background in software engineering, actually, a proud programmer, and decided I do not want to do that for 8 hours. Not fun for me. So I had a little sudden change in career. I was a game developer, and I studied MM, and now I'm a proud game producer in The Hague here in the Netherlands, working on awesome mobile games that bring me joy. And that's me, Angela.
Great. Thanks, Zoe. Angela.
Yeah, so well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, maybe for everyone here. My name is Angela. I am from Indonesia. I see that one of the attendees is actually from Indonesia. So hi. My background is hospitality management and culinary arts. And after that, I'm working in recruitment fields, also in hospitality and culinary arts. So now I'm actually working back home in Indonesia, but for a Dutch company, which actually located in Maastricht. Now I'm overseeing the whole recruitments for this company, Dutch company, but in Asia. So nice to meet you guys.
Thank you very much, Angela and Zoe. And once again, for everyone here today, throughout the webinar, if you've got any questions, don't hesitate, put them in the Q&A. Vessel will collect them. And if then you've got specific ones for Angela or Zoe, just put them there, and Vessel will make sure that they get asked later. But let's get started now today. First of all, I will give a very brief overview of MSM, but that's not the main focus today. But we'd rather deep dive immediately into what the market needs and how the Master in Management basically tries and provides for those market needs through the curriculum and the experiences. And then we'll look at what that actually means for your career. And so that's also why today it's so nice that we have 2 alumni present that can actually share their experience from that perspective. At the end, we'll go through some practical information like the application process, the scholarships, the fees. So that comes at the end. And then obviously, if we've still got time, we'll take the time for those question and answers, even if we don't have time, but obviously we'll try and stick to the 1 hour that we have. So let's deep dive into a little bit more the Netherlands. I wanted to mention that I'm not going to take too much time explaining how amazing the Netherlands and Maastricht is, because we did a webinar on that in November. I actually put the link there, but you can also find it on YouTube. And we talk much more deep dive into Maastricht and living in the Netherlands and how awesome it is. But today I'm just actually going to ask our 2 alumni here to just talk about their experience. Why did they study? Why did they choose the Netherlands as a study place? What they liked about Maastricht? And we'll leave it at that. And once again, if you want more information, you can check out the previous webinar. So, Angela, let's start with you this time. What made you come to the Netherlands and what did you enjoy?
What makes me come to the Netherlands, I think, because it's very international and multicultural country. So I think that's a good place to study, right? Because I really want to know about a lot of new culture. And I believe that's very important for my next career step. And about Maastricht itself, I mean, who doesn't, right? It's such a beautiful city, very diverse, a lot of young people, a dynamic city, and it's very accessible to other countries as well. Very close to Belgium, France, and Germany, because I love to travel. So yeah, I think that's a great experience for 1 year. I was in Maastricht.
Yeah. And why did you end up choosing MSM?
MSM, I think it's because of the curriculum, first of all. That's the first thing that I looked up into your website, how hands-on is, the teaching methods, and that it's very like, it's not only theoretical, but you have also a lot of practical things going on in a year. It's very packed though, but it's really like amazing experience.
Thanks, Angela. Zoe, what about you?
I think for me it's very similar to Angela with the difference that I already know that Dutch directness plays an important part of it, and I'm a very direct person, so I knew I would be accepted here. But I think the other thing that would also like help me a lot was that I already knew that English is like a given inside the Netherlands, like I wouldn't have a communication barrier. And I like to chit chat. I chit chat with the bus driver, the person who makes my coffee all the way through. So made everything easier for me. And Maastricht, to be honest, I knew I wanted to come to MSM. So Maastricht was a given. I'm not gonna say that I knew before coming to Maastricht, but after being here, I can proudly say that I would prefer to be in Maastricht over everywhere else. I love Maastricht. I think it's the most beautiful Dutch city that I have seen. And for MSM, for me specifically, very similar to Angela, I had a friend who studied there before, and I knew it was way more practical. And in management specifically, I don't get why we practice theories that much because it's very hands-on. So I did wanted to get a more hands-on experience for my studies.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I always like to say that Maastricht is a city where it's small enough to feel at home, but big enough that you don't get bored.
I said exactly the same thing because you still have all the facilities, but you know all the
Exactly.
people.
Yeah. It's still there's connections. A little bit just about MSM specifically, though, because I know when you are making such a big decision about where to study, it's sometimes really good to see that. We are part of the University of Maastricht, and the University of Maastricht is one of the best young universities, in the world. So that's always nice to know that you're also going to a university that is recognized for its dynamic approach. The degree is also Triple Crown accredited as part of the University of Maastricht. So you have this recognition that the quality of the degree is there. Very nice as well as the campus. It's in the center of Maastricht. It's beautiful. You've got little deer, and there's a stream and a castle wall, and it's really beautiful. And as a part of the students of the university, you obviously have access to all the university facilities, not just the MSM facilities. So you get the best of both worlds. MSM itself is a much older business school. We're one of the oldest business schools in the Netherlands. And what makes us quite special is that we actually only do business and management. We specialize in being general in business administration and management. So we don't have bachelor degrees in anything. We only have master degrees, and only in management and business administration. We are also famous for our diversity and our international and global mindset, also focusing on sustainability and developing those bridges all around the world. So that's something that makes us a little bit unique in that sense. And regarding the learning experience and all of that, we'll come to that later on in today's webinar. Just also good to know from your ranking position, which I normally don't focus on too much. I prefer that you look at accreditations when you're looking at business schools, because ranking is a marketing tool. But for those of you that do find it important, it is just good to know that the Master in Management is very well ranked in the Netherlands and worldwide as well. So let's dive in immediately into the topic today of the career that you can get through doing a Master in Management. And to be able to do that, I thought it's important to know also what markets, what is the market like at the moment? What do companies actually want from people? And I actually still spoke to an alumni last week that was telling me that she had an interview for a new job, and she was surprised how here in the Netherlands, they asked her only about her personal, the way she works, the way she is, her strengths, her weaknesses, what would friends say of her. They didn't ask her anything about her skills. And I said, yeah, but that's normal. The skills they expect you to have. If you apply for an engineering job and you don't have the engineering skills, that's not that you wouldn't apply for it. But if you don't confident to the team or into the company mindset, that's much bigger problem for the company. So it is quite different in comparison to some other countries and cultures. And so that's where we're going to look at that. But firstly, it is good to know as well from a job market perspective. People also ask me a lot about how easy it is to find a job after their studies. On paper, everything looks really good at the moment. There are more job vacancies available than people that are unemployed, which means that there is a need for workers, which means that it's a good moment to be coming to the Netherlands to look for jobs. Obviously, I can't predict the future, but generally speaking, our Master in Management students, most of them within the first 3 to 5 months have found a job. Also depends when they finish their studies, because sometimes if they extend it, they just fall in that bad period of when Christmas is, and then there's nothing. So during the Christmas period, things are dead. Zoe, I see you nodding your head. Can you tell us a little bit about your job hunting experience?
I think you're right. You never know for certain with the job market, but I think my blessing was that our year, it was extremely good. I'm not gonna say for everyone in our batch, I'm not in contact with everyone, but our friend group, I think I was the latest one who find a job. And there was a 45-day gap between me finishing my studies.
It was one of the
And I
best
was
years.
the latest.
Yeah,
So
but it was post-COVID, and there was a huge need for people. Yeah, I remember that year. Yeah. And Angela, for you?
Well, for me, I think I was quite lucky because I knew HRC before. That's the company that I'm working for right now. So yeah, I think it was like before even I graduated, there was like a little bit of time in between, right? Before graduating, I was already hired by them. So maybe I was like one of the first that got a job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really cool. So at least people know it's possible, because I often get that question, and voila, you guys are living proof of that. As I've mentioned before, there are hard skills and soft skills. For those of you that don't know what the difference is, just a quick recap. Hard skills are those technical skills that you need that for a specific job. Like I mentioned, an engineering job, you need to have engineering skills. I don't have engineering skills. I wouldn't be able to apply for that because I don't have those hard skills. The soft skills, though, are those interpersonal skills. So it's that how you interact with people, your communication style, your teamwork, your understanding of empathy or creative thinking, those type of skills. So that's just to give you an overview of that. And interestingly enough, according to the most recent research done by the World Economic Forum, the jobs that they expect for, the skills that they expect for next year, in the top 10, it's mainly soft skills that are going to be the most important skills that the companies are looking for. And when they looked even further in 2027, there's a slight reshifting of what's important and what's not important, but those skills, nearly all of them, are still listed in the top 10. So I was wondering, let's ask Angela, if you look at this list, which of those skills have you noticed are really important in your line of work at the moment? And maybe some of the things that you learned during your MM or developed further.
Yes, I think from the top 10 skills, I would say the analytical thinking and innovation, that's very important in my work right now. When I did my course at MSM, I didn't think that would be the most important because I was still in a different level, I think, back then in my job. And the second one, I think the strategy and planning, that's also very important, and leadership.
Nice. What about you, Zoe?
I think for me it's the other way around. I think for me self-awareness it's a very big one also at my line of work. But as you said, it's really easy to teach someone data and AI, but it's really hard to make them self-aware. So I'm also noticing at work most companies look for a thing like that. But other than that, I would definitely say immigration alone needs a lot of resilience or flexibility, being curious and lifelong learning. I think those are the foundation, and then you can build creative thinking or analytic thinking.
Yeah.
At least for my line of work, it worked like that.
Yeah, really true. And I just wanted to summarize that as well from a context perspective for the audience today. Based on the research, scientists and researchers are expecting that kids that are starting primary school today, so for example, my son will not, the job that he probably will be doing does not exist yet. And I just find that mind-blowing, how quickly this everything is changing. Also, they're expecting that, and it's already becoming a reality, but work that we used to do ourselves will be done by machines. And we even see that as well in education, how much ChatGPT and AI is affecting everything. And that's just going to get worse, which is why soft skills are so important, because you can see this in the job trends that they're expecting for the future. There will be some technical jobs which will become more important. So the top engineers that need to actually engineer the robots. And then you've got the side of the actual human-centric ones that computers will probably never be able to do as well as humans. But once again, we don't know. This is our expectations for the future. And so because of this, they think that the job functions which will most probably become more important is the sales and marketing, which is something that humans still remain that human-centric connection, education and training, business and financial management, and engineering. And I highlighted the business and financial management because that's what we teach at MSM. So it is good to know that by doing a master in management, you can also help future-proof your career by getting that degree. But now I wanted to talk more specifically about the Master in Management, because, and Zoe alluded to this in the beginning, we really believe that the teaching you need to be able to learn it by yourself by doing it. And we do it through a lot of different things, like the cases that is discussed in the class, the company projects, guest lectures, some simulation games that are added in, but also the assignments that you have to do by yourself. And so looking back at that, Zoe, if you think about, if you can maybe explain how you experienced this hands-on learning, because you said that was so important for you when you were looking for a business school.
I think we had this discussion before, Hermina, so excuse my repeated answer. But I think what's the most important thing is the cultural diversity, especially because everyone that joins MSM is usually their first year that they're out of their home country. So everybody is there with a strong background, but not with that much of a flexible mindset yet, because it will land on people that, hey, we immigrated. This is a new culture a little bit later than the September when you attend. So I think that's the first hands-on challenge that you have, because you will, at your work, at any job, I imagine, you work with different people, and they come from different background, and those are the biases that you have to learn to work with. So that part is true. For the next on harder skill, if I can give more concrete an example is, for example, we have a marketing course, which our lovely lecturer Oliver teach us all the theoretical stuff. These are all the theories that goes into marketing. I'm fascinated about games, so my project is gonna be a game project. Okay, what does this company, how does this one do marketing? So I get to apply all those things that Oliver taught me in the field that I like. And anytime during this process, if a question pop up, guess what? I'm having this lecture, so I just email the lecturer, hey, but how does this one work in this industry? So I'm not doing an exam, then I have to remember all those theories, which I don't know by heart, but I know what's the fundamental that goes into it, even now that is, what, 2 years after the course?
Yeah. Yeah. I still recently pulled up my leadership course to, refresh some of the theories and like, yeah, that was a good tip I had there. Let me try that. So true. Angela, and what about you? Because I saw you nodding.
Though I think you explained it very well. I don't have any addition in this, but I do really like, the personalized touch that the lecturer has been given to us. So we still can, we explore other dimensions of beside our own field, but we also able to, to grow what we had in, as our background. So I think, thank you for explaining that very well,
Yes.
Zoe.
And I think you guys already mentioned that, but I mean, it is a 1-year program and it is tough. And we like to call it the pressure cooker. And we like to call it a pressure cooker because it's a lot happening in 1 year. And I know it's been a while, Angela, but if you can maybe explain to the audience how it basically worked.
Ooh, okay, let me So I think, if I'm not mistaken, please just correct me if I'm wrong, okay? So I think we have 1 week full of course,
Mhm.
and we have another week which is we have to do all our assignments, which is the group and individual assignments. And that's like where you have to work a lot on that week, because the next week you're gonna have another course, if I'm not mistaken, right? So that's
Exactly
how it makes it very, like packed and like, pressuring you, but it's a good one. Yeah.
The advantage of doing it in this way is that you get to focus on one course at a time, and then you not start mixing, and you can really go deep into that course for the 2 weeks. And then you slowly build it up in that way. In between those weeks, when you have those assignment working weeks, you also get these extra activities just because we feel you're not doing enough. So we throw in some career workshops, we throw in some social activities, some student competitions, competitions, just to make it even more challenging for you, so that you can really say you survived the pressure cooker. But thank you, Angela. That was all correct. And if we look at the courses, like I mentioned, when we looked at the market needs, so we looked at those soft skills, we looked at the hard skills, and we set up this master management course. We tried to make it as future focused as possible. And so we included courses like cultural diversity, entrepreneurship and innovation, digital transformation, data analytics, and then some skills that are more focused on hands-on experiences. But I'll get to that later. Looking back at that, Zoe, if you think back now, and you've been working now for a year or two, right? Which of these courses are you actually using a lot more than you expected in your class, or that you expected to use and you are using? They're thinking about how useful was it?
I think even though I do not make any strategic decisions or marketing decisions, but I think both the strategy and marketing played an very important role in my today job. For me, again, I'm not a data person, but I would strongly suggest to take the data course, and I think it's management science, the other one that also works from data. These two, I would definitely suggest that take it seriously. I would assume no matter what your job is, these are gonna play an important part, especially
Yeah.
in our near future. But I was never an entrepreneur, so not that one. But I think management science, data analytics, cultural diversity, strategy, and marketing was
Okay.
definitely the highlights for me.
Nice. And for you, Angela?
For me, I think entrepreneurship and innovation, as I mentioned earlier, and also the strategy and planning. Yes, I use
Really
that a
nice.
lot now.
Yeah, it sort of helps you to understand business as a whole, right? It's about understanding when you make a strategy, it's not just about your little area of comfort. There's so many more things happening.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely. And same thing, like I mentioned, there are some additional courses to go more hands-on. So that we've got the personal development portfolio, which looks more at those interpersonal skills. We've got a group company project where every year the theme changes, but students actually work with the company on a project, an issue. And then you've got the supply chain project / course where the students get some theory and then they do a simulation game. I'm not sure if that was already like that with you. Zoe, did you already have a simulation game? No. Yeah?
We had a simulation game again, I think in a strategy course with
Okay, but not to the supply chain, because the supply
not
chain, they
for
also get it's now included in the course. Okay, because it's a really fun one. But if you look at these, and I'm going to ask Angela first, because you said it's been a while, so you had to refresh your memory on the company project. Do you remember vaguely how it worked?
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was like a company that sells um the machines at the hospital.
Was it Abbott?
No.
Boston
Okay.
Scientific.
Boston Scientific,
Yeah.
maybe? There we
Yes,
go.
that one. Yeah, thank you. Oh, you remember. Yeah, so I think back then yeah, we got a presentation. It was online though because I was a
Yeah, COVID.
so our team was online, and then this person from the company, he came and then he introduced about the company, the problems that they're having, and then me and my group, we have to actually like create a solution on how to to solve the current problems that they have. Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
Zoe,
a
you weren't
competition.
online, right?
No, I had the luxury to actually visit Boston Scientific. They
Oh
came
my
to
God,
they came to MSM, I think at least 2 times. So
Mhm.
once for introduction, once for the final presentation. So we were blessed.
Okay. And was it, I mean, it must have been quite challenging also because it's over several months and it's the group works and all of that as well. If you look back, Zoe, what did you learn from that experience?
Learn to either prevent your procrastination or woman up and stay awake for the night. You choose. No, but I think I also shared this with the next batch. I think what's most important is that it is very tight. So very early on, you learn that either you stay on top of things, or if you're getting a spillovers from week, you're asking for extensions so you can submit something next week. Very soon it will get out of your hand and you will feel overwhelmed by it. So my suggestion is exactly either plan it or stay the night awake and finish it. Don't
Yeah.
drag it to
Yeah.
next week.
No,
That's
exactly. Just get it all done on time, because else, like you say, it starts piling up very quickly.
And from my work experience, I always say if you cannot plan it for MSM, it's not gonna get any easier throughout life. At least in my experience, it
Yeah.
never did.
Yeah.
So learn to plan it.
One of our previous alumni from the MBA told me that thanks to the pressure cooker and thanks to all this time management and stress management, that afterwards everything else seemed very easy. So yeah. Okay. So that's just the project, as I mentioned. And then we have talked about the assignments briefly. Zoe mentioned that how when you work on the assignments, basically you per course you have an individual assignment and a group assignment. The group assignment can often be very challenging because of the cultural diversity, the different ways of working, the different motivation levels of everyone, and the different levels of procrastination. And so that is also as part of the things that you really learn to manage throughout the year while you're at MSM. And then you have those individual assignments where you're constantly looking at an issue, a company that you find interesting, an industry that you find interesting, and you're applying the knowledge that you've learned in class to these assignments to go deeper into that knowledge. And it also stimulates that self-learning mentality, the proactiveness that companies are really looking for. And I think, Zoe, because you mentioned it earlier on, you talked about the struggles that some of those group works, cultural diversity. Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
I think what's, if I may put it bluntly, it's very hard to incentivize people who do not have it. We call it intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. It's very hard to intrinsically motivate people. You can motivate them by saying, hey, your deadline is on Sunday, chop chop. Or at work, I get paid for the 40 hours, so I work 40 hours. But it's really hard if someone does not have that intrinsic motivation to be like, hey, we really need to submit this. And in my case, what I was struggling with is that I'm a fast person, so I want to get everything done. So I'm doing, they know I'll do it. So it's very easy for other people to be like, Zoe's gonna do it. Which is a valuable lesson because at work, I'm the same person. So I will run into this later on. And if I may put it shortly, my consensus was deal with it. It's a frustration that you have to deal with it. There is no other way around it. You will have those people in the group. You can either go two-way about it. You can either flag it to your lecturer, or you can also be like, no, I'm gonna handle it because I'm in this group. Well, we handled it the second way with a lot of tears, but we learned a valuable lesson. And the other thing is that I like to specify this. I think it should be I didn't know this when I applied, is that it's very individual to you, your course. I know we all go through it, but we come from very different backgrounds, not only culturally, but also professionally. Like even me and Angela, we have the same course, totally different outcomes, totally different starts. So what's important is that you gotta know that if innovation is important to you and you're putting that much effort into it, it might not mean anything to the next person in next to you. So they don't want to put that much effort into it. And that's something that's called life, I guess. That's where the resilience and
Yeah.
flexibility comes in. Do your best, put the goal how you want it, do the research on a subject that you're passionate about, and be your best self. And I can say that it always comes off when lectures are grading. So you never feel like, oh, I put in that much effort, but since it's a group project, it went to waste. Usually the lecturer is very aware of the effort you put in. So
Yeah.
you'll be good.
Thank you for that shared wisdom. Hopefully, the audience will take that to heart because I totally agree with it. Angela, in your case, if I remember correctly, you guys had a really special year because you were exceptionally tight, and that was probably one of the advantages of COVID that you were in this bubble. You couldn't meet with other people, so your classmates were your only mates.
Yes.
And you guys had much less issues, right? It was actually, we had to intervene to let you guys de-stress a bit because you were so focused on studies, if I remember.
Yes, yes, that's correct. I think in my year, yeah, we're the only those are the only people I knew back then. And we were just so focused on studying and doing our assignments. So I kind of like more like, you know, in the group project, I'm kind of like the mom of the group usually. Like for me, like I don't mind, you know, like reminding people every day that like, hey, you know, let's go and do our project. It's kind of like sometimes it's like pleasing for me, you know, and like when people do their job. So I tend to always reminding them and, you know, comfort them if like they need something, which was very much needed right back then because we had COVID. It was stressful because we couldn't go anywhere. So yeah, it was a very interesting experience as well for me, I guess. Yeah.
No, definitely. I remember the difference between the two groups. It was impressive. So you've both talked about the diversity. I'm not going to linger too much on that, but it is really something that makes the MSM experience unique. We have people from all over the world coming to join the program. Sometimes I even have to Google the countries or the cities because I've never heard of it. And it makes it really enriching because you get these new perspectives on the similar problem, but from different industries, different backgrounds, different experiences, and also new challenges, obviously. But we've also had it that classmates actually team up and start businesses together, or even over the years. I know that actually in the years that you both studied, two of your classmates teamed up and created Afro Vibes. And, you know, they've got this really cool music, African music industry that's doing very successful in the Netherlands now. So that also happens. And then obviously one of the main reasons business schools is you have this network afterwards that you stay in touch with. So that's always very useful. We've also talked about the professor. I know Zoe alluded to just now how she was able to just reach out to them, ask them questions. And that is something we're very proud of, is how accessible our professors are. Even now, I'm sure if you guys contacted them, they'd be super happy to hear from you. It's an open door policy, and they have this mix of knowledge of academic and consulting and work experience. So you also get exposed to a whole lot of different ideas and ways of doing things during your studies as well. I want to talk a little bit about the career and personal development track, because this is extracurricular, but it is also something that we believe is really important for if you want to find a job in the Netherlands or afterwards abroad as well, because you can use the skills that you learn there as well. And we focused on three different pillars: the actual career skill development, so how to write a good CV, how to prepare for an interview, what to say, what you need to be aware of, networking skills, those type of things. We look at the personal development, which Zoe also mentioned, that self-awareness that is so important in the job environment. Also think about what you actually want to do after your studies, so that career planning phase. And then also a few skills that are going to help you, like improvisation skills, the theater sports, having fun while learning. And then we have the side which is more of the social side, but it's always social with a learning purpose. So, the International Women's Day or Earth Day or debate nights, or in the past, we had movie nights where we would do topics, and then students would come and watch a movie on that topic and learn while having fun. And then obviously the individualized job searching support once you actually start looking for jobs and you need some help to review your CV or help you with a motivation letter. We have a corporate week where we have companies coming to talk to students about what it's like working there, what you need to do to stand out, becoming more aware of what's available in the Netherlands, and et cetera, et cetera. It's constantly evolving, constantly changing. If you want to have more information about that, we've just created a brochure with more information about that. But maybe just very shortly, Zoe, if you look back at your career and personal development track, what stood out for you? What really helped you from that perspective?
So I will say this, but not because you're here, Hermina. You can ask all the people. I've been saying this for 2 years now. We had career services during our studies at one point the softest skills that goes into the Dutch job market, because we focus on Dutch job market in the career studies. What do Dutch companies look for? That's eye-opening in itself. We prepared a CV for MSM CV book. But to be honest, that CV is very straightforward for other industries. My industry that I dreamed of working is a little bit different. Game industry, if I sent in that CV, they're probably gonna look at me be like, no, this person is way too boring for this.
Yeah.
So at some point after we finished everything, I reached out to Hermina. I told her, hey, Hermina, I want to apply for games. Let's do this in games format. And to be very blunt, you have wrote that bio for CV for at least 10,000 different students. You wrote it in a way that no chat GPT, no my brain, no nobody could have wrote it the way that it wrote. And I just chose another template, run the template where you got some feedback. I think we went back and forth at least 4 or 5 times until we were both happy with my CV, which, by the way, for our audience, not at all conversations during any course that was outside the career development, but the hiring person in our company looked at me and she told me that that was the best CV she has seen in at least 4 years. And I take pride in it because we really put an effort into it. I think that's the highlight for me. I know I never run into this, but I know from my friend Nassim, who studied the same year, she had mock interviews with you, and she
Yeah.
said, I wouldn't have got what I got if it wasn't for the mock interview, because she was struggling with how to do interviews in a Dutch way. And that's where you came in to help her. And that
Remember
was
very
where we
clearly.
graduated, actually.
Well, thank you for the feedback. Really nice to hear. And for you, Angela, because you guys obviously had COVID, so it was more complicated, a lot of online workshops.
Yeah, but I still remember all the workshops that you gave to us, Hermina. I think for me, because I think we are now our line of work is kind of similar. I'm also in a career development, but a bit niche in hospitality and culinary. So all the workshops, that you gave to me, I always remember, I share it to, other students in Asia hospitality school. So thank you very
Nice.
much for that. You taught me how to make a really good CV mock interview. That's what I'm doing right now for my job, and definitely learning about some skills, for example, like negotiation skills, consultation skills that I still remember. That's something that I am using so much, in my job. So yeah, so thank you so much for that.
Really nice to hear that for both of you it was useful. We also have the student challenges, which we love. It's always a highlight for us as well, especially the Sustainable Development Goals one. We're currently working on that. The finals are next week or in 2 weeks' time. Zoe, I think you were the most recent one. You also took part in the SCG challenge, right? Or you've
No.
No, you were in the audience. You or your friends took part. Can you explain to the people how it was being there?
So I think it's very important on companies that have sustainability subjects. If you have something like SDG specifically on your resume, it's gonna look very good. What usually happens is that there is a need for creating sustainability, an actual need in one of the companies here in the Netherlands. For my friend group, they work with the municipality here in Maastricht. They needed I think it was for the garbage collection, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Renewey.
They were looking for more sustainable options, so the team was working on those solutions. I think what's really important, if sustainability is important for your career, is that you get a hands-on experience. They might not implement your solution, but that's the first reality check of
Exactly.
what
Yeah.
is possible to be implemented. Because it's really easy to say, hey, let's get rid of this. But then the moment that you go and you realize, okay, changing this requires a change in the law so we can become more sustainable. Suddenly, that's not a solution
Yeah.
that companies want to go for because it's
Exactly.
work. So I
Yeah.
think it's a reality check.
Yeah, exactly. It's often what you learn academically seems so simple, and then when you try and apply it, you're like, oh, okay, there's so much more that I need to consider. And so that's why we like to do these challenges so that students can get to actually use everything they've learned in a real situation. So just to summarize everything we've talked about how this degree can make you more attractive to the job market. We've talked about the curriculum and how that can really help you. And then those specialized courses like the personal development and the consulting projects can help you with that. We've talked about the hands-on learning part where, the practical side of things, the solving of problems through the assignments, the creativity, having to think outside the box, the individual assignments, this active learning, the critical thinking as well. Group works, that is going to be challenging, learning about teamwork, influencing skills, communication skills, self-awareness throughout the year is something that you really will work on, both intentionally and unintentionally. There's a lot of presenting taking place, so the presentation skills will improve and the communication skills as well. That is a given. It's not possible to not improve. And then because of the international diversity of the class, your sensitivity to cultural awareness really makes a difference. And as we are moving towards a global village, these skills just are really important. And then we talked about the resilience that you learn through the pressure cooker, the stress management, the time management, being more proactive, avoiding procrastination. And then we talked about the career and personal development track, which is more practical. It's more hands-on, where you can look at the tools that you need to find a job after your studies. So just briefly, also, I just want to look at how the Master in Management can fast forward your career. And I know this is something that's very important as a question that I often get, and I just want to manage expectations. So immediately after graduating, I like to use Formula One as an example. Basically, you need to see yourself in line with everyone else. You might have pole position because you've got this cool Master in Management degree, but still during the race, anything can happen, right? You need to convince the employer they need to hire you. And like I mentioned, most of our students find a job within 3 to 5 months. The last bit sometimes takes a bit longer, but after 6 months, everyone are happily engaged and finding jobs. And then the reality comes between the first year of your job and, well, within the 2 years. You'll probably have a junior position or in a traineeship, and you'll be part of the team. It's rare, it's not impossible, we get those as well, but it's rare that you'll already be heading the team immediately after your studies, but it is possible. But in general, that's the situation. But we notice that students get the competitive edge at this moment. People start noticing them, team leaders start noticing them, or higher ups, because they have that understanding of business as a whole. They understand the sensitivity to different cultures and teamwork, how important it is, communication skills, presentation skills. And that is when we start noticing the real value of the master in management, which is namely after those 2 years, where you start getting a lot of increased responsibilities, you get more leadership positions, you get fancier titles. And we've seen that in about 95% of our alumni. They've had a visible career growth, and these are just a few small examples that I just took out. But I thought it's better to hear that directly from Zoe and Angela. So if you look at this from your experience, Angela, maybe, because I know you were here first and then you went and you had this new experience. So maybe talk to us about that.
Yeah, of course. I think I completely agree with you, Hermina. I think the first year, of course, you're gonna start as, like the entry level kind of job. And then from my experience, I started as a junior career consultant in my job, which, like consulting people or like students that want to go for their next career step in hospitality. And then after that, I was working here in Maastricht actually with HRC International. That's the company's name. And then after that, okay, this is probably going to happen a lot since MSM has so many international students. And I know how sometimes people are really want to stay in the Netherlands. I really wish that everybody, can make that come true. But in my perspective, or in my case, the company couldn't sponsor me anymore after having the Zookjaar, right? So that's they couldn't do it anymore. So I had to go home. But sometimes you just also have to find a company that wants you as much as you want them. If they really want to make it work with you, they will try their best to keep you even when you have to work remotely, even when they have to do something out of the box. That's where my company is doing right now. I'm actually still working with HRC International. They actually make a business entity in Indonesia, so I can still work for them. I am right now, I'm the head of the HRC International Asia, which oversee all the recruitment in Asia, market development, strategic planning, and also business development. So that's, sometimes it might not, go as what you plan, that you want to stay in the Netherlands for long term, but, it's really, really possible the other way, that you maybe go home. It's okay, but maybe you still work with the company from the Netherlands or from Europe. So yeah, that's my experience.
Nice. And Zoe, very quickly, because you've worked slightly less long, have you noticed anything of this?
To be honest, I worked for a month and then they realized they plotted me wrongly as a junior. So I was promoted my second month.
Wow. Okay. You were like the Michael Schumacher of MMs.
Well, in I had a bit of luck, as so I did not go for a very big company, because I had a bit of work experience in big companies, not my cup of tea. So small companies, things go way faster. They hire, usually when you come from job experience outside Netherlands, if I may so, you get hired as a junior, because everything is different here. How business is done is different. How workflow goes is different. So every company is like, okay, I don't think you know how we do things. Let's just start from scratch. But they're also very transparent about how you get promoted. So it's very easy to just check the list in the Netherlands and be promoted to the next one, and fancier job titles. And luckily for me, they soon realized that the junior is past me. And for I think Angela was a bit unlucky with the ward situation of COVID, because I've heard the stories from that batch. Everything was uncertain back then.
Yeah.
I was blessed to be after COVID, like
Mhm.
my job search was after COVID. So things were more stable for us.
Yeah, very true. And regarding that as well, because we often get the question, where do people find the jobs? This has actually increased now. We've actually got more than 70-80% of the students that find jobs in the Netherlands or surrounding the EU countries after their studies. And where they end up, though, it is so diverse that it's extremely difficult to give one name, because we've got big companies, we've got small companies, we've got startups. You both mentioned it also. But some of them well-known names, because I know that's what people resonate with, I thought I'd just list here to reassure students as well. And surprisingly, quite a lot of our Master in Management students end up also managing their own company in the long run. So just briefly, very quickly, some practical information, as I mentioned, and I'm sure Vessel has already shared this during the chat as well, but in case you were wondering, the tuition fee for the Master in Management for 2024 will be 18,200 euros. Applications are open. We know it is a lot of money, so fortunately we do have some scholarships available. The early bird discount is until 1st of May, so you've still got a bit of time, but not too much time, so it is good to start working on that now. And there's a Dean's Development Fund for people not living within Europe. And then there are some merit-based scholarships as well. So if you want to know more about those scholarships, it's good to know that you can combine scholarships, but to a maximum of 35%. The only one we go over that discount is for the academic excellence and the women ambassadorship. And if you do want more information about these scholarships, you can just reach out to Vessel. He can provide you with all that information. He can also work through the CV with you to see, what's a good fit, which one he recommends that you apply for, because we're there to help you with that as well. If you are interested in applying, you can go to our application portal, campus.msm.nl. There's a lot of documents you need to upload. Once again, if you've got any questions about that, you can reach out to Vessel or our admissions office. Steph and Leslie are always available to help. Once you've uploaded everything, there's an application fee to be able to submit your application. Then you will get an interview where we will check your motivation. And then comes after you've been admitted, you make a final choice. And if you go for MSM, you do have to complete either the GMAT or the GRE, or the leveling courses and an academic writing. I'm not going to spend too much time on that specifically, though, because we do have another webinar coming up, I think in April, where we will be talking specifically about these application details and the do's and don'ts. But the only thing I can recommend right now, for those of you that are here today, is regarding the motivation that you have to put on when you apply. There's 4 questions that you have to answer. Please, I recommend do not use ChatGPT or AI. We much prefer authentically written, self-motivated answers, even though it might be less perfect than AI. We do scan it because we can immediately see when the written answer has no personal connections from your side. So if you want to be considered for some of those scholarships, the academic excellence, for example, we really look at those motivation as well. Write it from the heart. That is something I can recommend. If you do want more information, as I've mentioned, Vessel is here today. I see he's been very active in the chats, and he'll summarize some of those questions, but so you can reach out to him or Inka and Lina. They're the other recruitment officers that work at MSM. You can chat with some of our students. So we've got a chat option on our website that you can reach out to them. And I've already mentioned we do quite a few webinars throughout the year on different topics. And if you want to know more about those webinars, you can also find them on our website. And then also we do travel sometimes to some countries. So if we are in your region, you can come and meet us in person. That's always great. And that was it from my side. We are slightly over time. So for those of you that have to leave, I will not be insulted. But I do see that there have been a lot of questions. And I think, Vessel, you've been collecting them. So maybe you can just shoot them out and see how we can help.
Yeah, sure thing. So we actually had a lot of nice questions that I was able to answer in the meantime, but I do have one specific question for Angela, actually. There was one of our viewers today who is from Indonesia, and they actually have a degree in tourism management, and they would really like to know how you experience specifically the Master in Management in comparison to your hospitality management degree.
Okay, well, I think it's very much connected, right? I'm not sure if it's going to be the same for all bachelor's degree in tourism and hospitality management, but what we learned usually in the bachelor's is more like practical, right? How the tourism and hospitality industry works, more practical of like housekeeping, front office, ticketing, reservation. So I think those skills you will dig deeper into the master's of management in the management level, if that makes sense. So for example, we already have the foundation, I would say, which is the customer service, the service in general, practical, the communication in the hospitality side. And then when you go to master's in management, you learn more about the management, which more in the back office, right? So accounting, let's say you can connected really well with accounting in hospitality, marketing in hospitality, human resource in hospitality, so I think it's a lot connected between tourism and masters in management.
Very nice. Thanks. We do have one more question maybe for Hermina in this case. Someone would like to know, with all the networking events and the corporate visits that we do, what type of companies do students generally come across from your past experience?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, it is extremely varied. But during the corporate week, for example, there's 1 week where we actually invite companies from different regions and different industries. And we do that on purpose because we often know when I meet students for the first time and I ask them, where do you want to work? 95% of them say one of the big four. And by the end of the year, many of them have changed minds because they realize that that's what they've been told they should be wanting. And I think Zoe actually mentioned it as well. That's often not a very happy ending. And so thanks to all these companies, and they get company visits or guest lectures from these companies as well. In the corporate week, we invite KPMG, we have a DHL, we have some of the big fancy names. And often the students are very impressed by the smaller companies, the other ones that they didn't expect. And so also from different industries. So if people coming from oil and gas that are really trying to change the perception that oil and gas industry has and the challenge they have to be more sustainable. So, and in the healthcare industry, being an entrepreneur within a healthcare industry. So we try and open up the horizons to so many different perspectives. But in the end, like I mentioned, we have alumni working in so many different industries. We have people working in Uber, we have people working in Tesla, we have people working in Booking.com, the fancy names. And then you've got people working in Den Haag in a game producing company, a mobile game producing company. So it can really go all different directions. And that's the beauty of the Master in Management program, because it's this combination of your background, your interests, and the study that actually ends up defining where you go to. So it's a very vague answer, but it's a very difficult question to give a precise answer to.
Very nice. I think the best way to describe it is they just have to experience it for themselves when they join our Master in Management.
Exactly.
Nice. All right, I think I have one more question to round things off, and that is someone would like to know how important it is to learn the Dutch language, either previously before you apply or after you have graduated. So maybe they can share their experiences.
Yeah, maybe both Angela and Zoe can mention if they learned how to speak Dutch, and if yes, why, and if not, why not? Angela, what about you?
I think it's always important to learn new language. I found it, it's always very beneficial when you're in the Netherlands. But Netherlands is very much open. Everybody speaks English, but obviously it will open more doors for your career if you speak the language.
Agreed. And you, Zoe?
I did not learn. I'm working here and I did not learn, and I probably won't. Because well, if you're a skill-based hire in usually engineering or like development, like I am, it's usually everything. Every source that you work with is in English. So even my Dutch coworkers all speak in English. It doesn't make sense to talk about games in Dutch that much. I would say this is very personalized. It depends on your background. If you want to work at a municipality for sustainability, you need to learn Dutch. If you want to go on, be a manager at a startup, at a tech company, probably it will never come across to you. In a day-to-day basis, I have never needed Dutch.
Yeah. Yeah, I normally recommend students to learn some Dutch just so that when they are looking for jobs, companies can at least see they're willing to integrate into the culture. But I don't think it's going to make a huge difference in you getting hired because of the Dutch. They're not going to hire you because you can say a few words in Dutch. We have had one student in the past that took it on as a personal challenge to be fluent in Dutch by the end of the year. And he was from Brazil, and he actually managed to do his interview in Dutch and get hired by the Dutch company. But the only one I've ever had that's, took it that seriously. Generally speaking, students get to an A1, A2 level, and companies just like to see that. But once again, like you say, Zoe, generally speaking, once you've been hired in one of those companies, they're not expecting you to speak Dutch. So it does reduce the pool size of where you look for good jobs, because obviously there are some companies where they really need you to speak Dutch, but the ones that don't, it's not an issue. Yeah. That's all. I saw there was another question that popped up about salary range.
Yeah, I've answered that one privately.
Okay.
If you want to highlight some of the things, then feel
Well,
free.
it's a very difficult question once again to answer, because it's once again the same thing as where the students end up working. Obviously, if I use the example between the steel industry and the oil and gas industry, there is, or the petroleum industry, there is obviously the steel industry is one of the worst paid industries, and oil and gas is one of the best. And for the same position, there can nearly be like €2,000 difference in salary. So it depends on the industry. It depends on the size of the company. Obviously, small startups are going to give less than those big four companies. It depends on the function you're in. If they put you to start a junior position, you're going to get less, but you might move up quickly. So it's extremely difficult to give a range. So my safe answer in this case is always, to be able to stay in the Netherlands, there is a minimum salary you need to get to be able to get a work permit. The Dutch government requires, and I think I haven't checked recently, but it's around 2,800 euros. So generally I round it off and I say a good starting salary would be around 3,000 euros gross. But like I said, that can range and go very quickly up, but the average is somewhere around there. That's the safe answer, because it's such a difficult question to give a specific answer to. Yeah. I think then, so just regarding, I see there's one last question just quickly to answer the application process. So how long it takes is up to you, in the sense that if you apply and submit and everything is okay, then normally it would take about a week for admissions to review everything. And then the interview obviously depends on how quickly you're available again. So if you aren't available, then it will take a bit longer. If you're available immediately, then we set up the interview. Vessel takes care of that always. And then after the interview, the admission board will review your final application. And it also depends on when that happens, but it's normally about 2 weeks after that. So if you want to give yourself the time to make sure you get that early bird deadline, I would say take at least a good month for it. We can be quicker sometimes, but it's not something I can promise or guarantee. So if you want to make sure that you're going to be on time for the early bird, try and submit your application before the 1st of April. Yeah, perfect. Then I think on that note, well, Zoe and Angela, I just want to thank you both for being absolutely awesome today. It was really useful. I think your answers were way better. Oh, you want to get paid? Yeah, you're paid in gratitude. But your answers
I
were just...
sent in a small hearts, Herman.
Ah,
It was
okay. I would realize. Yeah. But anyways, thank you so much for both of you today for being so helpful. Hopefully the audience were able to really benefit from this as well. Your insights were way more valuable than anything I could have ever said. So thank you for that. And thank you for everyone for listening today and for being so interactive with all the questions. I know Vessel was very busy answering all those questions. So hopefully it was useful. We will have a follow-up email with this, the slides of this webinar and the recording link. So if you want to rewatch it, you are always welcome to. And more importantly, if you've got any questions, we know it is a very big decision you have to make. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're there to help you. So thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.